lifted its ban on Cleveland Browns defensive end Myles Garrett, who was suspended indefinitely in the aftermath of an in-game melee between the Browns and the Steelers. Garrett snatched the helmet off of Pittsburgh quarterback Mason Rudolph and then clubbed him with it. On Friday, Garrett doubled down on his contention that Rudolph used a racial slur during the brawl, telling ESPN's Mina Kimes during a softball interview that Rudolph called him a stupid N-word. Garrett first made these allegations 1 week after the November 14th game. In his softball interview with Kimes, Garrett remarkably said his actions were indefensible and that he did not want to make this brawl about race. He did not want to make the brawl about race. There was one crime committed on November 14th. We all saw it. Garrett clubbed Rudolph with a helmet. Listening to Garrett rationalize his actions after he served his punishment is the equivalent of O.J. leaving the joint and saying Ron Goldman called him a racial slur. Myles Garrett is a clown of Jussie Smollett proportions. Rudolph called Garrett's claim 1,000% false and a bold-faced lie. Rudolph's agent labeled Garrett's claim defamatory and threatened legal action. Steelers coach Mike Tomlin issued a statement strongly backing his quarterback, saying, quote, "I support Mason Rudolph not only because I know him, but also because I was on that field immediately following the altercation with Myles Garrett and subsequently after the game. I interacted with a lot of people in the Cleveland Browns organization, players and coaches. If Mason said what Myles claimed, it would have come out during the many interactions I had with those in the Browns organization. In my conversations, I had a lot of expressions of sorrow for what happened." So we're supposed to believe that hearing the N-word caused Garrett to lose control of his emotions on the field, but he also remained calm enough not to shout or talk about it on the field. You know what's far more likely than that scenario? A black player on the field calling Garrett a stupid N-word. We love the word, and we use it in a derogatory manner more than a term of endearment. We use it as a weapon of destruction, the same way Garrett is trying to kill Rudolph with it now. We heard Garrett the first time he rolled out this weak excuse. It's less credible the second time around. All right, Marcel, let's get us rolling here.
Yes.
Do you like Myles Garrett repeating his allegation against Mason Rudolph?
I do. I like him doubling down on this and tripling down if necessary because it's his truth. None of us were there. Unfortunately, no audio can exonerate or even indict someone in this situation, which is a little peculiar, which I think lends itself to Myles Garrett's case more than Mason Rudolph's, but I digress. Let's say this. My therapist always talks about how you are is not who you are. And I think that's very important to this situation. How you act in certain moments doesn't mean that's who you are all the time or properly defines you. Just like you can do something dumb and not be a dummy. Just did something dumb. So here's the thing that really strikes me when I look at this situation. I have reasonable doubt in terms of what Mason Rudolph and Coach Mike Tomlin are saying. And they're saying it so emphatically that I'm like, I have doubt. Rudolph's reasoning for trying to pull off Myles Garrett's helmet unsuccessfully, wrestling with him, punching him, kicking him in the manhood, was because he tackled me late. That's kind of petty. Okay, now let's fast forward to when it really went down. And I believe in a moment of excessive stupidity, which is really instigating a fight with Myles Garrett if you're Mason Rudolph. That's kind of stupid. And then chasing him without your helmet, which is just beyond stupid. It's absurd. That all of a sudden in that range of stupidity and absurdity, I'm not to believe that you went to a stupid, absurd place and used the N-word. I have doubt that you didn't use that word. So just using the circumstances against him, using the moment of irrational behavior against him, he did all those dumb things, all these crazy things, but he didn't do this one. Remember, Mason, even if you did, how you are is not who you are, brother.
Football players have a quick switch. And for all the arguments you made on behalf of Myles Garrett, they can be made against Myles Garrett.
Yeah.
The same way Mason Rudolph could have blurted something out offensively. And if he used hate speech, and I hope the evidence come out, he should be castigated because that's not appropriate. There's no room in it for our game. We all know that. But the same way you can defend Myles Garrett, you can use those same words. So in a moment, could I see him feeling attacked and defending himself, for feeling like he needs to defend himself, swinging a helmet, and then afterwards realizing how egregious this all looked, and then in another moment having a poor reaction and telling a small lie, a fib, one that he didn't think was going to go public, to the NFLPA, because remember, this story got out because it leaked. He didn't want it to get out.
Mm-hmm.
But now your back's against the wall. Sometimes a small lie turns into a big lie. Now, am I calling Myles Garrett a liar? No, because
I am.
I'll never know the truth. I'll never know. We may never know the truth, so I can't call a man a liar. But I do know that feeling, and everybody knows that feeling. When you get caught in something, you have two paths. Either you go the path of the truth or you stick with the lie. And there may have been that crossroads in this situation, and that is a difficult crossroads to reach, and there is no backtracking now.
I don't like it on different levels. First thing I thought of when I saw it, this happened in November. Super Bowl's over, season's over. You did your penalty. You were penalized. You were found to be culpable of what took place. You were suspended. Now, I'm looking at it from this perspective, and this is just where I come from, and this is how I interpret things. If it truly happened the way he's saying it, then even with that taking place, I see a Myles Garrett apologizing for what took place, taking the high road, and moving on, because you know what? You've already served your penalty. You're going to go into your offseason, move on from it as a player and for your team, because you were considered or still are considered a leader on your team. Move on. Secondly, I feel like this exposes more about Myles Garrett and how he's wired versus anything else. Whenever you got to repeat yourself, sometimes that's an indictment of guilt. To me, that's my interpretation of it. I can recall many times where I've found myself doing things I shouldn't have done, and I always repeated myself to try to justify that my actions were justified. So I don't think that it was appropriate or even well-timed to come back and hash over it again. Say it happened. Whatever happened, we do things on the football field. I hit him. I'm sorry for that because I shouldn't have done that. And I want to move on with my career.
Well, the timing was forced because the suspension was over, so it became newsworthy. Therefore, they come out and want to do the interview. Then you're forced to either go down two paths, give an excuse or give your reason. And I like how you said it. Like, we've all been there before. Like, I could take the high road or I could try and get out of this in the low road, and you just got to stay on the low road until you die.
But you didn't get out of it.
But here's the thing. His reasons... He's like, I'm not, let's rewind.
And there is a third option, by the way. You don't have to address it, but go ahead.
Okay, true.
All right, go ahead.
After the game, Josina Anderson reported, after the game, now you can take her credibility into question if you want, but I'm just telling you facts of matter. She reported that something was said.
She predicted.
Well,
she predicted.
I can't go there either. I let you speak. I'm going to say what I heard. I'm going to see what I read. Point being, something was mentioned in that moment. Now, not to play it as a race card, he probably said, I'm going to keep this confidential till I get into a private setting, which he did. He never came out in an interview. But for you to say move on, I think it's convenient to be up here and say move on when Mason Rudolph is being called a racist and he's being called Jussie Smollett and more. So,
but the reason,
you need your reason.
But the reason why I'm going to say you move on from it, Marcellus.
Yeah.
We don't have to be politically correct so much, right?
You mean
there are much more heinous things that are said during the course of 4 quarters of a game.
Not in that context.
What?
That context is different. That context is different. First of all, Myles Garrett never felt threatened. Let's stop with that. Only one person in this conversation felt threatened.
Who?
Mason Rudolph. Mason Rudolph started something and then felt like...
How does that justify him hitting him upside the head with the helmet?
I don't know how Myles Garrett felt threatened.
He did.
That's my point. He didn't feel threatened. I think, I hope we can all agree, there is one certifiable lie that's been told. I think. When this dude says, I don't want to make it about race, that's a lie. There's no way you can say he called me there, but I don't want to make it about race. That's a lie.
And what
that's
he
the only.
presented it, and the way that he presented it.
I don't believe it. I don't think he's lying. You know why? I don't think that Jussie Smollett should have ruined it for all black males in this predicament and saying that they're not speaking the truth. Like, okay, Jussie did his thing.
But again, you're
why
making
is he
it about
lying?
when you say the N. When he called me the N-word, that is making it about race.
But that's the
own it
to him.
But again, he's saying I own it. I'm making this about race. Don't sit here and tell me I don't want to make it about race, but he called me the N-word. No, you're making it about race. That's a lie.
Why? I think you're touching, he said the N-word and I smacked him. He's saying the dude came at me first and then in the scrum somewhere the N-word was said. I backed off. I had two dudes pulling me off. Then he came at me again and I hit him with it. That's a different statement.
When you flip it over to the other side and you think of Mason Rudolph, I mean, now this is somebody who's vehemently denying that all of this has taken place. He has his head coach, a black man, having his back. I mean, this is career napalm. If he actually uttered those words, and there's a microphone, which there are many on an NFL field, caught him saying that, a video camera, lip readers can figure this out pretty quickly if there's a shot.
And why haven't they? That's my point.
So is it did it or did it not happen is the point that we've reached. And Myles Garrett says 100% it happened. And so either we believe him or we don't. Either way.
Well, are you buying the NFL?
Do you think that it'll ever come out, what if it was said or not? Do you think it'll ever come out?
No, but Spygate tapes also didn't come out.
Okay.
Here's the thing. Why wouldn't the NFL either put the audio out, which would
Well,
pick a side?
I'm going to tell you why.
There's no audio?
I'm going to tell you why I think.
Yeah.
This whole thing is very childish.
And that's now you were about to go down the road,
The
and that's
whole
why I
thing
asked
is
you.
very, very childish. And for those of you with kids, you've seen, I've been a kid when I've got caught cold busted and then came with a lie to justify my behavior. This is what children do. When I watched this dude's interview with Mina Khan, he looked and sounded like a child. He didn't, there was no conviction behind what he says. And then what a child will say is like, Mommy, even though I'm saying, I don't want to make it about this or that. Well, you just did. So either own up and be a man and you're making it about race and you think this dude disrespected you in a racial way and that's why you did it. But don't come to, I'm saying this, but I really don't want to make it about race. This dude is a goofball who did something stupid, who's gotten in trouble in the NFL for playing rough with quarterbacks early in the year, and he came up with some bogus excuse and trying to defame this man. And again, even if true,
First of
which
all,
I don't believe. Move on.
Any objective person can't bring all these circumstances together and say what happened in this moment. You can try and give me a character build, and it could be a character assassination against Mason Rudolph if you want to do that. That's a dangerous game. But two, if he comes off with conviction, that's going to convey that this is a guy who can't control his emotions. So him controlling his emotions all of a sudden now gets used against him because of what you already have in your belief.
But if it's never going to come out, right? You just said, in your opinion, you don't think it'll ever come out.
I don't think the NFL's
We'll never prove it. You already served your suspension.
I would say that if Mason Rudolph
Move
was
on.
Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, I could get trying to protect him. The NFL has no motive to try to protect Mason Rudolph.
Oh, really?
This dude, by play,
You don't
might
want
be out of
you don't
league.
want the narrative of a racist league. Come on, man. There's a reason
Mason
to protect
Rudolph doesn't prove that there's a racist league.
There is
Look,
one way
racist.
where both
What?
sides
After Kaepernick?
are telling the truth. One, he said it, and Myles Garrett is telling the truth. Two, he didn't say it, and Myles Garrett is lying. Or three, Myles Garrett thought he heard something.
One of the other dudes.
Thought he heard Mason Rudolph say something.
Jay-Z was playing on somebody's iPod. Who knows? Coming up, most people have Joe Burrow going #1 in this year's draft. But is there any chance Tua is actually the better prospect? We get into that. Hurts!